I'm Vineet. I am a assistant professor at IIIT Hyderabad. I work in a lab called CVIT below, okay, just below this floor. And I had the fortune of working with some of the sports tech or companies lately, and I've been asked to share some of my experiences, and I'll keep a light talk, I think, with a lot of examples and visuals, and rather than and probably share my experiences, what I have seen, especially the player field plot technology we deployed in Asia Cup in Dubai recently. Okay, so fine. So in my view, I think to start, the technology has transformed the way we experience sport, and there's no doubt about that. But I think in the process, the has transformed the sport itself. And I think I'll argue with that point that, by technology has just changed the sports by themselves also, how we play, how things go. And I want to talk about 3 dimensions, and they're not the only 3 dimensions. There are many other. Let's say there is gaming, there is fan base, there is, health and safety of players, and there are many dimensions, but I just want to focus on 3 of them, which has really made, and I'll give you some examples of each of them. So the first one is better decision process, like how technology has allowed to take better decisions. And I'll also talk about how these technologies work in a brief, right? Like 3-4 of them, I'll take an example. Then the second aspect is better viewing experience. The viewing experience has gone to the next level now. I think we just don't realize the humongous effort which is going behind the behind the lines, and I think I'll give you some idea on that. And the third aspect is analytics, which is another important piece which has changed, again, as I'm saying, how we play. Okay, so let's start with the first thing, and I'll give you some examples. And this is not like this is 10 years ago, 5 years ago, things like that, how things were and how decisions were made. So this is an example of offside. So all of you know what's an offside in soccer. If not, I'll just explain. Okay, so offside is when, so here this is Ronaldo, right? This is, Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid match, and there are 2-2. It's almost the final time. It's Champions League 2017, very recent, and a big match. Okay, and you see that the whole idea is when the ball is kicked, as you see that guy is kicking the ball, he's the last person. So there is one more person from the defense who can be there, goalkeeper behind him, but he should not be the last person when the ball is being kicked. And he is clearly the last person in line, right? There is no one behind Ronaldo. So he's clearly offside, but referee misses it in 2017 Champions League. And this is what happens. Oh, sorry. So, so he passes and he just puts it in the goal, and the goal is counted, and Real Madrid is up 3-2, though the goal is not fair because he was the closest to when the ball was being kicked, he was on the far side and there was no defender behind him, right? So, and these are major errors, like ideally they should not happen. Let's see a few more. This is cricket, this is Andrew Filtoff. And you probably observe the gap between the ball and the bat here. We'll see maybe more clearly. So this is not even close. This is just crazy that Flintoff was given out and he has to walk back to the pavilion without a fault, right? So decisions of errors of this thing, and this is okay, this is the same thing. Let's see some more. Let's say DRS. Okay, so you see that the ball pitches and it straightens actually very clearly if you see carefully, and it's clearly missing stumps. If you have a close-up, like I'll maybe play it again and you can have a look. So it just goes a little off or straightens, and it's clearly missing like off stump by a large margin, but the umpire gives out and the batsman had to walk back. But this is what not happens anymore, right? So technology has changed. Let's one more example I want to give. So this is Serena Williams versus Kim Clijsters, again a very important match in US Open. Okay, and she lost by a very tiny margin that day, and there were many decisions of this kind. So this is given out. You see that there is a linesman. She gives it out, right? And she's just standing there, right? So these are human errors which used to happen, right? And this is like by no means the ball is in, and there was no, the possibility for the player to challenge it, right? And this is something not close, this is far in, right? So these sort of things were pretty common in sports, and I think technology has transformed it to a next level now, and I think decision process has, so even technology can err. I think there are many mistakes they make, but on average, if you see, the quality of decision making has improved by a large margin, right? And I'll give you some examples and explain the tech behind them also, right? So let's look at, anyone watched yesterday's match by chance, right? Did you see the offside at 3 minutes, right? I'll give you an example. It's just crazy how the technology has improved, right? So just the leg was little, so by the left leg, by like 4 inches of the left leg, there was a offside given. And, so how it works, I'll probably talk about that in a moment. So they have 12 cameras in each stadium now to just do offside, 12 of them, which is huge. And they track the limb parts of every player from each of these cameras. So basically there's a pose estimation algorithm, we say. They're taking the extremities of each limb and they're tracking that live on 12 cameras. Okay, so think of the compute they will require. Maybe there are a couple of trucks sitting just for the compute. Okay, and there's a sensor placed in the ball now which detects whenever there's a kick happening. So whenever the ball is kicked, it tells there's a kick happened. Okay, so this is manufactured by Adidas, and there's a sensor in the middle of the board which 500 FPS it gives, this sensor data on the wireless, which is received at one of the receiving stations. Okay, and again it's semi-automated. I think that word is very important to know, that okay, it's not an automatic decision. Whenever it feels there's an offside, it just sends an alert to VAR room. There's a VAR room where all these screens are lying, and it says, I think there's a possible thing, and they alert the referee. The game is paused, and more careful look is manually made, and they sort of do that. But that alert is the key, that they think there's a potential offside and they make an alert. The process may take something like 70 seconds to 120 seconds. Like yesterday was a lot of time, but the game is stopped meanwhile, and referee checks it and gives the final verdict. So right, and once confirmed, the 3D animation is generated and shown on TV, like why it was offside. The viewers want to know, and that's done. And all this process in 70 seconds or like something 1 to 2 minutes. All this happens, and they're working hard. And they did 3 years of dedicated research just to build this system. 3 years of a very large team by FIFA, and millions of dollars were spent just to build this one tech. And you saw that since World Cup is a big stage and there are a lot of emotions with it, yesterday, as I'll talk about yesterday's case in a moment. So this is what it looks like pictorically. This is a video from FIFA itself. Like there's a sensor in the middle, which at 500 hertz gives you if the ball is kicked or not. Okay, at that speed. And there are these 12 cameras. I don't know, you can probably not see the lines because of the sharpness, but you can see that there are 12 cameras around the screen which are capturing. And what each camera is doing, they are doing this. Okay, so they are tracking all the limbs of the players, right? All the extremities live on all 12 cameras. Okay, and then, as I said, the alert is made on VAR room, and so they sort of then tell the referee, and there is a lot of manual process also involved. Once it fires. So let's see one example how this works. Okay, so here you see that they sort of know that this limb of this guy is like few inches inside. Okay, and they make this, and this is all happening automated. They draw this plane, and then the offside is declared. Though it was a goal there, it's like by 4 inches he missed the offside and there's a goal. But rule is a rule. I think he was offside, right? So the technology has come to this level, and this is pretty latest. Yesterday's case was pretty crazy. So at 3 minutes, this Valencia, there's a player from Ecuador. He netted one inside, okay, and they celebrated and all that. And after 1 minute, the goal was disallowed. And it's more crazy because it could. So you see that the offside is this guy up here, okay, and there's only one. So one person from the defense side is allowed behind. So this is that guy. It's not the goalkeeper, interestingly, and the tech could make that. and he's like offside by a small margin like this, like one small leg is outside, okay? And there was a lot of hue and cry on Twitter and everywhere that, there is cheating and all that, and of course, Ecuador people would not like a decision as tight as that. And the goal was disallowed after giving it in. So I think this is an example from yesterday, and I can imagine myself like how much pressure this team will be when giving offside just at the start of the game upfront, right? So this is how technology has evolved, and with this confidence, because the referee was unsure he'll not give a offside in such a case anyway. It's too risky to make a mistake, but we can prove it, we can show it, and we have the confidence to take decisions as tight as this. Okay, so this is where the offside, you saw the clear offside of Ronaldo when we started from here yesterday is what we have walked in. And a lot of research and effort has taken in. And of course, a lot of data, right? So to train this pose estimation algorithms, a lot of manually annotated data is used, like tons of them. I think as a computer vision community, we know that problem is solved. But then to run on 12 cameras at 50 FPS or whatever the speed is required, it's a challenge in itself, and we are able to do that, right? So, so optical tracking, you have to track all the players also, and then also track their joints. So, really a significant amount of work. And the biggest challenge, I was reading about the director who took over this task, the FIFA innovation director who actually funded the unit which funded all this. So the biggest challenge was, okay, it was easy to put a sensor in the ball and make sure when it's being kicked. It was probably okay to do key pose estimation, because as a computer vision, I know there are open source tools also now work up to 10, 15 FPS. With some work, you can get it to 30 FPS. That's doable with some more data. But to integrate everything into a single system, they said was the major challenge, and to really test it out that everything is in sync and all that, right? That was the biggest challenge, they said. And there, as you see, there are many aspects to it: optical tracking, limb detection, connected ball, like this smart ball thing. Then there is geometry and computer vision to put these planes and all that, as you saw. And then there is graphics and visualization, which to really regenerate the graphics. So this is how we have come in soccer. Let me take one example of sneakometer. So I didn't know where it's put. Now I recently looked. So they have a dugout just below stumps. They put it inside and just keep this mic part outside. So you see many games, if you watch carefully, this mic it outside. This is what sneakometer uses. If you have, sneakometer is a tool where the ball hits the bat. It creates a, spike if you watched cricket, right? So this audio is all doing sneakometer, and there is a camera which is in sync with the audio, right? It's a high-speed camera, they say. Like, so high-speed cameras are like our normal cameras will give 30 FPS, which means a video is nothing but set of frames captured fast. So it captures like 1,000 frames per second. These are high-speed cameras. So, and that's where you see this slow motion. So they capture at this, but they play at 30 FPS. So world sort of stops for you and it slowly moves. So this is how high-speed cameras work. And so they have a high-speed camera and this audio thing. And this is not hard. I think once I used to teach the signal processing course long back for computer science, we did it as an assignment using an iPhone of 240 FPS. We could get some reasonable results. I'll probably share what it is done, and just to tell you the locations more clearly and how such things can come. This is a women's cricket match, right? So India, Australia, very recent, and you see that she hits. It hits that box, which is there. I'll just show you in the close-up, So she hits and hits the cover of that box, and the ball deflects. Okay, so it would have been out, and they take another run also. So you see, this is where the camera is. Like you see that the small camera going out. I'll just pause it, and so. So you see that it hit that box. I was saying the covering on that, and this is your mic lying there. So this is what sneakometer uses. It's a small device, and how does it work? It's pretty straightforward. If anyone in signal processing, it's simple bandpass filtering, right? So when the ball hits the bat, it creates sound in a particular frequency, and you just need to know that frequency and filter everything else, right? So it's a simple bandpass filtering they do, but with a lot of effort, with a lot of noise, they just train these algorithms and figure out what that band is. So I think there's a lab there where they have these suspended balls, they keep nicking, and record a lot of data to find that particular frequency where the sound is made, and then always such technology, some ad hoc, some hacks will be there, and some hacks on top of that, you have your sneakometer technology. So I think if you are really consistent enough, and all of you would have seen this algorithm called Fourier transforms, right? So which goes from this, time domain to frequency domain, and or back, right? So it's just a simple Fourier transform or any transform, and go to that particular frequency band, filter everything out in the frequency domain, go back to time domain and visualize this, okay? And you need to have the video in sync. So that's the rough idea how it works, and it's a simple technology, but you see how much it has transformed cricket matches, and it can also falter, but in very close cases like this. At least the blunders like you saw with Flintoff doesn't happen anymore, right? But it's not the technology perfect. Once in a while, it can also falter and give wrong results, but that's not usual. And DRS, how it works, this is a very interesting audio. So I don't have audio actually. So I needed audio, but it's okay. I think I'll just pause at right places and explain. So this is from, so they have for this DRS, they have these 4 cameras and this 5th camera where you see. And when the ball is being bowled, right, they have a high-speed camera, they track the position of the ball in every frame, okay, and create these trajectories like this. So it's not sharp enough, but this is actually positions of the ball in different time frames, okay. So you're just tracking the ball up there, and then you do a trajectory prediction task where the ball will go, like, so it came here, it should go here like that. So it's a trajectory prediction task, and they make errors sometimes. So there was a Australia-Sri Lanka match, if you saw, like the ball was going like this, it tipped and it was like going this, and the Hawkeye predicted like this above the stump. So they still make errors, and these technologies took their time to sort of mature. Like initial deployment, they made many errors, at least small errors go unnoticed many a times. So nothing is perfect, but it's the consistency and be on the problem, keep trying, this is what makes it work. So I think, as you can see, I think I'll just play some more footage of this. This is
the center of the ball in every frame. Yep. And depending on the speed of the ball and how long it takes to get to the end, we'll get a certain number of frames.
Okay, so you've got your 4 cameras, and then this is the view we typically see. So this is Wagner. Now what you need to show me here, because the concern was that Tim was struck outside the line. So these are all the tracking points. So, and you can just, if we just zero in, that's the stumps. So that is the outside of the...
So yeah, so interesting aspect is that the point of impact is very important in this DRS. The point of impact is outside off stump. Then the review, then it's not, it's not allowed. The point of impact has to be inside. So you see these 3 stumps in this purple color may be far enough, and you see then the ball where it's impacting, and then you clearly see the point of impact as well, and sort of interpolate and.
So you show me where the ball's hitting there.
So the purple line here, just on the left of the center of the ball, is the outside of off stump.
Right.
And the center of the ball is just under the net.
So the center of the ball is just inside the wide side of the the off stump, right? This is what it is being said, and this is how this works. And the technology does not need to be as spectacular or as difficult. Sometimes simple innovations, like for example in football we have this thing called VR, where something goes wrong. Now the other team can raise a review, and the referee just walks to a corner there where he can just see the live footage, the replay. So I was reading about NFL, they said like replay is one of the technology itself which has transformed like the broadcast a lot. So someone curates these replays quickly and keeps it for the referee. He just watches it, and the referee just watches it, and then he goes and says that what is his final verdict, right? So they put the game on pause, go to this block, observe and go back. And why not like simple things like, yes, audio, I need audio, yes. Speaker में sound, selected sound output is okay.
ensure that the right decision is taken is a process.
Okay.
Checking all the camera angles in order to ensure
Still
that
doesn't
the right
come.
decision is taken.
It's okay. It's all right. And before I move to the next dimension, it's okay for machines to make mistakes. It's not okay, but reality is they make mistakes. So this is Hawkeye, which is one of the leading companies, and you see the error they made when the technology was still maturing, right? So the ball is clearly out, right? You can see this clear gap, and this is what Hawkeye shows. So there's a minor calibration error at the start, can make errors of this intensity, which is very clear in the camera. And this is so clear that people are able to question. Sometimes things happen so fast that small errors just go unnoticed, right? So as I said, many small errors go unnoticed. The reality is that technology can err, and the question is on average reliability, right? Can they make those blunders? Probably not anymore, right? So, and what is required is continued effort to constantly improve. A trademark of successful companies like Hawkeye, even if they were criticized. If you are a cricket fan, Dhoni was really against DRS for a long time, because the question is, he asked how much accuracy can you give, and they said like, I can be 1 inch here and there. Then Dhoni was always questioning that if you can be off, then what's the point, right? And he also has a point, like you're not perfect enough, and at some point they also realized that the blunders are so big that it's okay to live with that 1 inch here and there, right? And eventually that's what India team also agreed. For a long time, Indian team didn't allow DRS to be used, at least broadcast happenings in India. Like, so Indian series were not, like all series where India was playing, DRS was not used for a long time, but then eventually they also gave in. The idea is they kept working and tried to keep convincing them that we are half an inch better or few millimeters better every time, right? So this is how technology, and what is the key is acceptance of technology, allowing space to mature it is the key, right? So that's what the leaders has to do, the broadcasters has to think that, okay, it will not be a magic day one. You have to allow it, go it, and that happens, at least in my experience. I can say that they are now positive in that mindset. We deployed one tech, I'll talk about that, and we made our errors, but people were fine with it. But all in all, in my view, the future really seems bright on this decision process. For example, we are now thinking to start something on Kabaddi where no Hawkeye exists, and so which is picking up now. Against Kabaddi, a lot of efforts were made to revival, but now a broadcaster really takes it to the TV. It has made a big revival now. I think yesterday, if you were there were matches in Gachibowli Stadium, and a full show was there, as I told, like some few colleagues went there. So it's really picking up again, and I think we'll need technology there also. So there are a lot of rules in Kabaddi, like if you, while you're in the defending side, if you sort of put your leg on that line also, you cross by anything, you're disqualified and all that. Like all sort of things happen in Kabaddi as well. Okay, so the second dimension I want to talk about is better viewing experience, and I'll take few examples, 2-3 of them in this space also. Like first is to just, I want you to make familiar with the animosity of how the broadcast happens. So this is recent Qatar World Cup. This will be the 42 cameras deployed at every stadium in every match, right? So, and this may not include some other special cameras, but this is like 42, which the director, and there's a director sitting and looking at the all 42 cameras and deciding what goes live at what time, right? So, in fact, I was reading in football with some 12 cameras, you can do most of the broadcast. The rest is to generate these replays and show, and you see that there are helicopters cameras, there are drone cameras, there is this spider cam or sky cam, people say. So all sort of stuff, and it's a humongous task. Like it's a crew of some 150 people who manages one broadcast at least, and there's a coordination live among all of them. It's some task. I was fortunate enough to be at Asia Cup recently, okay, and the stadium I saw that process in live. Like there's a room this big just filled of devices, and there's a screen in front of the director with 42 camera feeds coming, and that fellow is just coordinating with everyone that camera ID this, you be ready, you can be next. And he's just talking for like entire match, he doesn't stop talking, right? I don't know how he manages to do that, right? So I felt breaks are important for players, but when I went there, I realized breaks are probably important for directors and broadcast people also for a short while. So this is how a broadcast happens, and these are some sort of 42 cameras. There are cameras in stumps, there are cameras everywhere, and so on. And few things are really appreciated a lot, and I want to talk about. So before that, I give you an example how broadcast used to happen like few years back. So so the same camera is being shown till now, right? Not very aggressive feed. This is like World Cup match. This is one of the better ones. This is, I think, 83 World Cup or something. I pulled him from somewhere, right? So it's not aggressive. The same camera is shown. No hurry to switch to different camera. This is how it happens now. This is last World Cup in. So you see, umpire is shown. He is shown, right? And quickly this is ready. And this is a highlight, but you see the pace of display, the quality of display has changed, the graphics, the VAR, the feedback people get. So when we watch, we don't realize we have come a long way. One camera sort of largely static, or there will be some cuts there also. They will show a crowd and stuff in a while there also. But here this is what we have come to. So it has gone a big way from how we perceive cricket from what it was long back. And I want to take this example of spider cam because I felt this is amazing technology. I was just inspired when I saw these people putting cables. Just for 3 days they did cabling. I was just observing what are they doing. When I was in stadium, we were setting up our tech also, cameras also, and they just do cabling 3 days. And I think let's look at the output and then I'll talk about the tech in a while. So this is spider cam. So he's just following this guy. So sometimes he's close like this. So he's walking and the camera is just walking with him. So
All plugged in, ready to go? Good.
Ready to go.
Well, I'll show you what these actually are. So this is the reversing one. I'll show you actually how it works down here.
So this is, you see the spider cam following that guy. So this is the feed from spider cam, and just to tell how it just moves about just like a human in the.
Also the reversing one. I'll show you actually how stump.
So this is a stump camera, right?
40 years. This cut out here. There's an action box, and you can see there the way when you're at a.
So this is the fellow, right? So this is not a human. This is a human operating, but sitting in a box there. Okay. So what happens? There are some boxes assigned to commentary box, to spider cam, and all that. Spider cam need to see the match. They need this box and to be able to see. So this fellow there are two operators which run spider cam. One is just moving the whole body where it goes. Another is operating the camera below, which is a robotic camera, which can pan, tilt, zoom by a robotic camera, right? And they coordinate together. So both things are moving. You have to understand, like one is just moving the whole body, in the stadium, X, Y, and Z. And the another guy is operating the camera. And this happens live. There's no scope of error. Like you cannot zoom in too much or zoom out too much. And it happens with this smoothness you saw, right? So this is your spider cam, amazing piece. So they'll switch to spider cam again. So this is your spider cam again, right? And as he walks up, it just follows.
Talk about out in the middle. Justin Langer is just leading the warm up over there. We'll go and have a chat with him shortly. But yeah, plastic stumps these days. And if one gets knocked over and they have to replace them, the Fox budget gets absolutely blown to smithereens.
So this is your spider cam, and so the idea is you would have seen in cricket nowadays, ball hitting the spider cam and all that. If you watch matches, it comes in like so much, but still people are allowing it, just because the output is so interesting, right? So, and the history is interesting itself. So how it works is like they actually put physical cables with something which is 5 times more strong than steel. Okay, so these are very thin cables, but they have tensile strength of 5 times more than strength, and they run the current also. The same wiring, so because they need power, the camera robotic unit of it will need power. So the same cable which is used is also used to send the power to the thing, right? So they don't have two different cabling. The same cable sends power also, and the same cable it suspends the system also, right? And these are 4 units which are suspended, and you can loosen and strengthen any of these strings. By doing that, you can take the camera in any space in the stadium, right? So there is one guy who just uses a joystick, actually, as simple as that. And there is simple Euclidean geometry they use. I actually sat with one of them and saw what they're doing, and they just move around this camera. And there's another guy who has another set of joysticks who is operating the camera pen till zoom, so how it is. And the history is interesting. I think it was first tried, it was called Skycam then, and so it's tried in '84 in NFL. They didn't bring the camera down, they just moved on the upper axis itself. And when they invited all the broadcasters to do some tests with the empty stadium, it hit one goal post, right? And people were scared that it is very dangerous and it will not be allowed. And that one incident delayed the usage of Spider Cam by more than 10 years, okay? People were not confident, and then it made a return in 2001, around 16 years from where it was tested first, and from there on it has been used regularly in many tournaments, right? So this is one of the cameras, and
The computer is interpreting my joystick inputs and coordinating the four reels together.
so you see that this is the camera. Oh,
And the best guys in the field are usually going about 22 or 23, so you can almost keep up.
This fog really is getting thicker out.
so there is a particular example where there was a lot of fog in a match in October 22, 2017, and none of the camera could really show a reasonable feed because they were far away, and with fog they couldn't see. And they used like a large amount of broadcasts were done with Spider Cam because it could go close and give you unfogged output. This is Spider Cam, and you see it's still fogged up. What will be the output for other cameras, right? So then use cases came up, right? But when you first use it, people question it, but then people say that, okay, this is something, which we are off to use, right? So the second tech I want to talk about is the tech we deployed, right? So this is tech developed in the lab just below, okay? And this went in Asia Cup. So you see, I don't know, the resolution is probably not good enough, but you see these player positions in this. And this is like first time, this is, I don't know, 2007 or something. This is being used. How it was supposed to done, like people just marked by hand the positions, and that static thing was shown, right? So there's a person sitting on the chart, he'll mark the positions, and those positions are shown like this. So it's been there for a while, but now this is fully automated. As people move, these dots also move and all that, right? So this is what our output looks like when we compute it. This is Eden Gardens, I think, where we did some of our tests before. So as you see, people are moving. So I don't know, this guy is moving, as you see, or something. This guy is going back, as you see. So the live, it's tracking the positions of all players and showing this. And this is our internal output. When it goes to broadcast, it looks something like this, right? So there should be a Rohit Sharma thing, right? So I think so we tried and tested this in Eden Gardens, in Chinnasamy, in Bangalore and all that. Everything was working. And then we went to Dubai, right? We deployed our camera. It's a Sony PTZ camera costing something like 14 lakhs or something. It's a huge thing. Star Sports bought that camera. We set it up and we realized it's not covering the ground. And we are in a crisis situation that now how do we deploy this tech, because our cameras we bought are not working. And we just hurried up, so, and this is all after cabling, because the cabling is a huge issue. Whatever tech you are deploying, the notion is that you have to do your own cabling. So we never did that before. I went with two of my students. We understood that, okay, there is a power cable you have to get, and this is huge stadiums, right? From one source of cable you have to get where your camera is. It could be hundreds of meters of cables you have to roll in and put, right? And if there is one, knot which comes in, it's a major pain, like, things like that. So this is something we didn't do, and it was like 45 degrees in Dubai, and we are just on the roof of the stadium and doing cabling and drinking water, right? That's all literally we did. And after all this cabling, we set up this camera and we realized this is not far enough, and we had no possibility to go back. In India, we have these open stadiums. You can keep going back till the whatever the floodlights. You can go above that. But Dubai Stadium has something called a ring of fire, right? So it's just closed like this. It has a ring of fire which works. So you cannot go back. So it's not that I change my camera position, it works. And we were in a crisis there. Then I just ran to this thing called Mall of Emirates. That's the only time I went outside my hotel or the stadium. The things were so stressful back then. And I sort of bought a bunch of lenses, went back, assembled, tried few systems, and eventually we could make a camera setup work which was covering the stadium. And in the process, we lost one match. The first match we couldn't deploy because we were not ready. And then other errors came in, right? So I'll show you a few other things later on, right? And and it didn't work. There were other challenges. So this is like, as he said, we had a cabin just like Spider Cam was next to us. The English commentary box was next to us, and we could see the stadium, and we were doing our tech. The feed was coming from the camera, and we were looking at it. These are two of my students, Kanishk and Jeet, right? And I don't know, the audio is not there, but here the only part audio was important. So we couldn't make it work for first 3 days because of some other issues, right? So Spider Cam started to be detected as a human. We didn't realize that. Like our detection algorithm started detecting Spider Cam as well, right? And so there were a lot of some things which we didn't plan, and why couldn't we plan? Because the project started and COVID hit, and we couldn't really travel to stadiums to collect a lot of data in live matches because there was a 15 days quarantine to access the stadium itself, right? And yeah, I'll do that. And then when you come back here, IIIT had 15 days quarantine, right? So to collect one match data, student had to do 1 month of quarantine, which most students were not agreeing to do, right? And of course, I didn't ask them themselves. It became very difficult, and this was our first live appearance apart from some Ranji matches which we recorded. You know, someone from Star Sports recorded and sent us. There also, and there are no Spider Cams and all that. In Ranji matches are more minimal in their way, so you don't have so many challenges. So after all the challenges of 2-3 matches, you know, bringing some human in the loop that, okay, if errors happen, a human can correct them and all that. The first time it worked, I think this is what my student felt, right? So they were there. I just came back to India a day before that. Okay, so after staying for a week and not being able to make it work, okay. So he's saying, did you take the photo? Just to send it to me. And this is, I don't know, part relief and part, you know, excitement that actually the tech went live. And then it was used, and then came another error, right? So I don't know if you can see this, but can you see the dots here clearly? So you see these 3 dots are outside the boundary, right? This actually went live, and maybe some 1.2 crore people are watching this on Hotstar right now. There will be people watching on TV as well, right? So it actually went live, and I was like sitting at home watching the match, just waiting for the graphic. No one. So the funny instance is the Star Sports person who was involved, was working with him all this while. He called me that day. It was this India-Sri Lanka match or something. You know, I'm just saying where everything worked perfectly. He called me that, congratulations, it's like 11 in the night. I actually had slept by then, and I woke up, took his call and saw something important or something. He said, congratulations. I said, what happened? Well, he said, tech worked perfectly today, no glitches, something. Then I said, okay, who won? He said, India lost, right? So the whole idea was, in the process, we forgot who is winning, who is losing. The focus just went on the tech all this while, and eventually it worked. So the error here was because in 1 over the bowling happening in this end, the next over bowling happens from this end, and you had to flip the graphic. And we were sending the flip signal to the graphics engine, which is deployed at somewhere else. And but there was a glitch in the graphics people, not our place. This is not our fault. It is a fault of some third party which we are working with, which does the graphics from the points we send. And it ran good for first 10 hours, 12 hours, and then suddenly there was some buffer issue. And then the flip signal was, they were not reading it carefully. I don't know why they were reading everything else but the flip signal. So if you see carefully, if you just flip the boundary just like this, they 3 come in out and they come on close to the boundary on the other side, right? So it was just flip of the boundary because the bowling happens from this end once and the next over is bowled from another end if you have observed cricket more carefully, right? So that was the glitch. Then came in, then the BCCI director of there, which remains, he just gave me a call that what is happening. And so this is like stressful situation, and then eventually we fixed this also. And needless to say, just to communicate with graphics engine and our output being read in their system being able to visualize took us few days, right? You know, so 2 days there just to figure out that we are able to communicate through some wiring physically in the stadium, right? So every small aspect became a challenge there itself, right? Because we tried sending data from IIIT server, but because of some security, they could not receive the data, or like a lot of challenges, and then we said we'll try there itself on the same LAN. And eventually worked, but later matches it worked perfectly, as you can see. So here the dots also move, so you'll see the dots are moving. Here the bowler is running, right? So this is live graphic, and this is the final match. And so later graphics, it was used, without any glitches for last 6 matches or 7 matches, and eventually ended up working things. But what the key point I wanted to make was, again, initially, you make errors when you go down first time, right? You are stressed, but eventually, I think you have to be consistently working hard towards it and, make it work and whatever it takes. And you have to be on it. And I think in next 2-3 iterations, we'll make it a much better system which can go live without any glitches going on, right? So another piece of visualization I want to talk about, anyone watches rugby, it's in India, I think very few will watch, but these white lines and blue lines, right? So in rugby, there is the idea that you got a ball, you have to run to that side. That's largely it. Once you get a ball, in 4 passes, you have to move 10 yards at least. Otherwise, the ball goes to the other team and they start on the opposite direction. That's what's roughly the rule is. So the point you caught the ball, and 10 yards from there is a very important thing. And the simple broadcast innovation was to be able to put these line adaptively live. So they're not really painted there. Players know it by these people who are sitting with this, orange things in hand, that, okay, what I have to reach in 4 thing. And if you have seen rugby a little bit, they try 3 passes, and if they say they are far apart, they'll just kick the ball far away so that the other team starts much farther when they try to move in, right? But these 2 lines are really crucial, and you see they're able to put live in a PTZ camera. There's a PTZ camera which gives you how much pan tilt zoom it's making as a computational number. So you can acquire the geometry and put this, and they're estimating this green color very nicely. So they only put it when there's a green color. So you see that's not going on top of the players. So all those small innovations, but this became a big thing, and now this is a usual feature in all rugby things, right? And the third aspect I want to talk about is something called analytics in last 10 minutes, and try to probably close it. So this is about NBA. It excited me because this tech went live when I was a PhD student in 2013 with a lab in EPFL in Switzerland, where they were working on this for like 4 or 5 years. So they could make this multi-camera system and deploy it in NBA and got a 10-year contract at once. Okay, so what they do is following, they just track all the players just like this. So you see all players are tracked live, their teams, which team they belong to, and even the ball is tracked many a times, right? So here the ball is not tracked properly, but you will see. So here you see the yellow thing is ball, right? So they are tracking the ball, they are tracking the players of one team, players of another team, and they do this tracking for entire game. And here the goal is not to do a display of this, but then they later use it for analytics. Like based on this data, how should I change my strategy against different teams and all that. And NBA is one of these sports where you'll see maths PhDs sitting with the team there or analyzing, because there are a lot of maths PhDs which are working in this analytics with these teams to figure out what to do. So one aspect is this computer vision system which sort of tracks players and shows it. Another aspect is to really analyze it. And this is what many people do. And I'll give you some hints of some. So they realized, so you see the rise of 3-point shots. What they realized was there's a trade-off. We are just beside the baseline. Like you have 3-pointer in basketball if you ever played. You're just inside it and you throw, or you're just outside and you throw. The chances of your winning were much higher if you just went outside. So from a 2-point strategy, the game became like try to hit as many 3-pointers as possible. And this is like statistical data that the rise of 3-point shots. So this is year by year how many attempts were made on per game on average. Like so, you see that there's a clear spike here, which has changed the game of basketball itself. And this is because of analytics. Like this is not, someone sort of decided. And so what these analytics people say is coaches will have their biases, and data will show this is what has happened, right? And you should change. And I think I'll just
Change one shot. Even though we make them at lower percentage than the shots that were sent to the basket, but there were more points and the trade-off actually pays off. Take a look at this clip from the 80s. It's closer to the basket, but there were more points and the trade-off actually pays off. And take a look at this clip from the 80s. See how all the players are bunched up right by the hoop? Compare that with today. More and more of the action is taking place at the 3-point line. Of course, it's not just basketball that's been reshaped by analytics.
So could you hear the audio at the back? So what she's showing is this is what data has done. Like, so the game has transformed itself by just observing data and what works for the team. And that's about basketball. And I think there are a lot of secrets which they keep for each team, which doesn't go out. But what I can say is there are like, this lady itself was a maths PhD herself who was explaining. So there are people who is just doing analytics of this data which they acquire, right? Data is a property of NBA actually. NBA as an institution, so data is available to all the teams, and then they have their analytics team sitting for each of the team which analyzes and discusses with coaches and players and gives them data. And so then there's one more startup I want to talk about. This is again a homegrown thing for badminton. So the startup has shifted to Gopinjan Academy now. So they do, of course, they do statistics or these things for badminton. So this is called mathday.ai, right? I have worked with Ganesh before this, and Professor Jawar, I think, worked very closely with him.
Artificial intelligence-powered algorithm gathers more than 50,000 data points per match. These data points are captured automatically in real time without any manual intervention. Text, shot type, player positions, stride length.
So you see they're tracking a bunch of parameters live in the match, and then they give it to players, or whatever who want to use. So again, this is more a capture strategy. To make sense of this, you'll need probably some coaches or some broadcast people can use some of the part of the data. So this is again a homegrown tech, and I think Pulela Gopichand itself is on the board now of this startup, and the startup has shifted to their premises in general, but they started in CIE here and rather in the lab before it went to CIE also. So this is again a startup in analytics in badminton, which is homegrown, right? And analytics in soccer, this is an old paper. It's a paper in WACV 2016 or something. This is my paper with Professor Jawar and a student called Rahul Anand, now at Carnegie Mellon, right? So we tried to do, so this analytics is done for soccer also, like people sort of collect this data. We said from the broadcast, can you give you approximate analytics? Like I cannot give you as perfect because they are sitting with 24 cameras in the stadium, a lot of manual people annotating stuff. Can I just use broadcast feed and give you, like, so there are two challenges, like what part of the ground I can see right now. So first algorithm says that, okay, right now this part of the ground is seen, and this is done automatically, okay? And the second, like, sort of puts the players in that and tracks them. Our idea was like the key, where the ball is, key actions will happen and you can do part of analytics. But the realization was it was a well appreciated paper and all that. So you see that we are able to figure out what part of the ground is seen automatically without any manual intervention. And you can do it from broadcast feed because these 24 cameras you don't have access, like everyone doesn't have access to. But this access, broadcast feed, everyone has access to. They can just record using whatever tool you use and they can do that. But what I realized was in this area, people don't worry about spending money. What they need is a perfect solution, even if it takes a lot of manual intervention, whatever it takes. But this is a piece of research we did few years ago, and I just wanted to put on like how you can use geometry or some markings on the ground and sort of inference on things. And to just sort of close with the live things, people do a lot of analytics in other ways also. There are now these smart Kookaburra balls, right? So Kookaburra is a Australian company which curates, they say, the finest of the balls in cricket, okay? And they're used officially in many things. So they came up with a sensor inside the ball, so you can say how much it's spinning or what speed it's going and all that. So all that analytics comes for very convenient. So this is for training at least being used. It's not being used in matches as of now. But they're saying in training, at least you can know how far she's throwing. And like, so a lot of parameters like the spin parameters and all that comes from that gyroscope or gyroscope sensors which are there inside the ball, right? There are these things for bat also. There is this company from India called Stance Beam. They have like this some cap you can put on your bat, on top of the bat, and then it tells you, the angle you hit the bat, so vibrations and all sort of stuffs which will need the speed of the bat, how far the bat is going, and it can give you the trajectory of the bat later on as an animation and all that. So this is about Stance Beam. And there's one more company called Tweak Labs. I think interesting. They have these wearables and all that. Like they have manual hardware sensors on a suit, and when you sort of all of that, they can tell you about your pose, that you were like little like this or little like this. You should be straight and all that. So a lot of analytics on this side also, which is happening. So a lot of opportunity, as I said, hardware and wearables also. Okay, so if people want to see where it goes from future, and few other dimensions to sort of close, I think for health and safety, well-being, rehab of athletes, there's a lot of research going on. Like so, there are injuries are common part of sports, and then you want to get your players back on field as soon as possible. So a lot of tech or analytics happening on that side. Like what are the particular things for this player which makes him injured or things like that. This could be personalized. You have wearables camera. This is a research going on that instead of seeing broadcaster, can I sometimes see how the batsman is thinking? So you have camera on the helmet or something, what he's seeing, what he's planning, how he's thinking. So this is happening in soccer and all that. It's not gone live because it's shaky, and to stabilize at a level that people can appreciate is a research. But I see a lot of research happening in wearable cameras, and it's a matter of time they'll be putting the perspective of the player or in any sport, and that can come as a broadcast, and probably we can see it and all that. People are saying even how referees are thinking. Can I get a referee's perspective? This could be on-demand things which can come in feature. There's another opportunity in fan base, like things like ESPN Cricket Info or merchandise selling and all that. That's another opportunity in the digital space to use data, right? And as I said, online platforms have really come up. There's something called CrickBuzz now and all that, Sportskida or something. There are new websites coming and analyzing that space also. So here the idea is to give you what spaces you can explore if you want to go next. There are betting platforms now which are picking up, right? So in India we have this team formation things, and Bet360 or others are there for soccer, which do soccer betting. You put $1, $2, and things like that. Here you make a team and your team sort of outperforms others. You get some money or your money is gone. So we see all this Dream 11 and all that advertising. So this is another space, and I think another two avenues. I was talking to some broadcasters in Hong Kong recently that they want to bring in now analytics in esports, like how good a player is playing and all that by his gameplay for a long time. And Kabaddi is something I think which is picking up. I feel there's a lot of opportunity because there are no Hawkeyes and stuff, so you can build a homegrown one for Kabaddi for all this, helping the decision process or analytics and so on. So this is, I feel, are some avenues which are futuristic, and I think that's where I conclude, and I can take up questions if you have any. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.